In the world of faith and spirituality, questions often arise that challenge our understanding and beliefs. One such question is, do Christians have to obey the Old Testament law? This query carries weight, prompting us to reflect on the relevance and significance of Christian laws in the light of the Old Testament. Diverse viewpoints surround this intriguing question, each shedding a unique perspective on the intertwining of faith and doctrine. As we delve into this profound question, remember that the aim is to broaden our understanding and respect for different interpretations of faith, not to judge or criticize. To understand this question fully, we first need to understand what the Old Testament law is. The Old Testament law, also known as the Mosaic Law, is a set of rules and instructions given to the Israelites by God through Moses. It's an integral part of the Jewish faith and comprises three distinct categories: moral laws, ceremonial laws, and civil laws. The moral laws, also known as the Ten Commandments, are universal laws about behavior and ethics, such as not stealing or murdering. Ceremonial laws, on the other hand, are specific to the Jewish faith and include rules for worship and sacrifices, as well as dietary restrictions. These laws served as a guide for the Israelites on how to worship God and live their daily lives. The civil laws were essentially the legal system for the Israelites, providing instructions on social interactions and disputes, as well as punishments for crimes. Now, let's shift our focus to Christianity. Some Christians believe in the necessity of following these laws. They argue that Jesus himself said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." They interpret this to mean that the Old Testament law still applies to Christians today. However, it's important to note that this view isn't universally accepted among Christians. The Apostle Paul, for instance, wrote extensively about the law in his letters. He argued that Christians are no longer under the law because Christ fulfilled it through his death and resurrection. He stated, "For Christ is the end of the law for righteousness to everyone who believes." While some Christians believe in the importance of following the Old Testament law, others have a different interpretation. Let's explore that next. Many Christians view their faith through the lens of the New Covenant brought by Jesus Christ. This New Covenant is a cornerstone of Christian theology and fundamentally changed the relationship between God and his people. In the Old Testament, the law was given to the Israelites as a guide on how to live righteously and maintain a relationship with God. However, the New Covenant, introduced by Jesus, shifted this dynamic. This change is not about discarding the Old Testament law, but about fulfillment. In the book of Matthew, Jesus said, "Do not think that I have come to abolish the law or the prophets. I have not come to abolish them, but to fulfill them." So, what does it mean that Jesus fulfilled the law? It signifies that he perfectly kept the law's commands and requirements, something no other human could do. In doing so, he became the perfect sacrifice, taking upon himself the punishment for our sins. This act of love and sacrifice opened up a new way for us to be in a relationship with God, not based on strict adherence to the law, but on faith in Jesus. This shift doesn't mean that the Old Testament law is irrelevant. On the contrary, it provides us with a moral compass and helps us understand God's character. However, the New Covenant underlines that our salvation is not earned by following the law, but is a gift from God, received through faith in Jesus Christ. Paul, in his letter to the Romans, points out, "Therefore, no one will be declared righteous in God's sight by the works of the law. Rather, through the law, we become conscious of our sin." This statement reinforces the idea that it is not the law, but faith in Jesus, that justifies us before God. The question of whether Christians should follow the Old Testament law is complex and multifaceted, with different interpretations based on one's understanding of the Bible and faith. Whether you view the Old Testament law as a guide to moral living or a historical document illuminating God's character, the New Covenant underscores the vital role of faith in our relationship with God. As we conclude this exploration, remember that faith is a personal journey. This journey is enriched by continuous exploration and questioning. The resource link from gotquestions.org is an excellent starting point for further study into the relationship between Christianity and the Old Testament law. It's about asking the right questions, not just accepting the answers given. So dive in, immerse yourself in the scriptures, and let your faith guide your understanding. Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and remember, faith is not about having all the answers, but about seeking understanding and growing in your relationship with God.